Rogers TV North Durham Kawartha acknowledges that we are situated on the Mississauga lands and the traditional territory covered by the Williams Treaties. We are grateful for the opportunity to work here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. We also recognize the contributions of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples, both in shaping and strengthening this community and country as a whole.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Welcome to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between the viewer and the entrepreneur or market maker. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and today we're joined by Emma Scull of Bonita Clothing Co. in Lindsay, Ontario. Here to talk all about her journey into entrepreneurship, please welcome Emma. Now, Emma, in your own words, what is Bonita Clothing Co.?
Well, we are a clothing shop located in Lindsay, but we were an online clothing shop to start. But we actually offer a bit more than just clothing. We have accessories, we have stationery, we have footwear, and I kind of label ourselves as like this trendwear boutique for more of the youth than anything, but not limited to.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And how did you get started in this?
Wow. I was going to school to be what I do right now, a speech therapist. Oh. And it was during the heart of COVID, and I felt kind of not great about myself. Like, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was on TikTok like everyone else was in those days. So I saw this business doing something similar in the States. And well, at first I wanted to order something from her store.
Okay.
And they didn't ship to Canada. So I was like bummed out. And then I thought long and hard about it, and I was like, I could do something like that, I think. And I just started researching how I could make that possible for myself. And then I did like all the educational things, like reaching out to like our accountant and seeing like what I had to do this. And I kind of just started from there. It happened so quick. I think I came up with the idea in January, and I launched by that following March online with like, I think it was like 10 items. And we sold out basically in our first day when we launched. And yeah, that was kind of basically the start of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a whirlwind.
Yeah, I know. It was pretty crazy.
So the first thing that comes to mind is, are you still a speech therapist?
Yeah, I do that as my full-time job. And then I have family and friends that work for me that help run the ship while I'm at my other job. And we just kind of make it work. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about here.
We do.
Take me back to the moment where you're scrolling on TikTok and you decide, I can do this. Did you formulate a plan right then and there, or what were the steps to get to the online store portion?
Yeah, I guess. I was just more looking for how do I navigate the whole wholesale industry. And with it being COVID, a lot of the stuff is online now, so it was made more accessible during that time period. So I was able to research and see kind of what brands I could like get into, I guess. And then from there I was like, okay, so I have access to these brands. All I need is like a business name and to get my license and essentially just do it. And I remember just like thinking, I wonder what my family and friends are going to think, especially because I am in school.
Absolutely.
Like going to do my career. And I just like kind of ran it by them, and some of them were like skeptical and were like, well, this won't last kind of thing. Like it'll just be like a trial and that will be it. But then I feel like whenever people say things like that, it makes me want to do it like to the extreme.
Sure.
So I did literally that. I just kind of did it. I don't know. Yeah.
So we're at the point where you're just doing it.
Yeah.
Did you make an e-commerce store with your website, or how was the initial launch?
Yeah, so when I launched, it was online. So I used Shopify to get a store and integrate the products onto a website. It was kind of like the most like number one store or like platform for a store online during that time. And they had a lot of resources made available to you so that you could do it yourself kind of thing. So I basically just like bought the 1 month trial, and I was like, I'm just gonna try to build a store based on like fake products to just see what happens. And it just kind of worked. So I very quickly learned how to like code and do like minor coding and things like that to get a website from the ground up. But they were really great. Like their help team is amazing, and you ask any kind of question and they just are on it. So yeah.
So you make this Shopify site with fake products and you go, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Let me figure out how to do it. So did you make a logo off the bat? Did you create the name off the bat and the product or?
Yeah, so I guess when I knew that I could do it, I kind of came up with a name, and I really didn't know what to call it. I didn't really know. I knew what kind of style of items I wanted, but I didn't know how I would market that at all. So then when I was brainstorming with my mom one day, I kind of wanted to name it after something that was meaningful and that had meaning behind it. And then my mom kind of was like, well, what about like your Aunt Bonnie? And I was like, oh, I never thought about that. So then I started really thinking about it, and basically my aunt had passed away when I was in high school due to cancer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and her name was Bonnie, but her real birth name was Bonita, which translates to pretty clothing. So I just kind of thought that kind of works, and it kind of has a story that people will want to hear, and everyone in our community like suffered like the same loss that we did. So I kind of thought that it was rather fitting. So yeah, that basically just started the name. And then I reached out to a friend in school who does like graphic design on the side, and I just kind of say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Can you do this for me? And she's like, yeah, well, what are you thinking about? And I was like, I don't really know. I know that like we're gonna name it Bonita Clothing Co, but I just don't know the design. I know it has to be like delicate and pretty based on like the name being pretty. So yeah, she just kind of drew it up with like florals, and it just worked.
So the first logo you drew up is the logo you still have today.
Yeah, so I thought about when we got our storefront like launching into like something else, but I just thought it really does have a story to tell, and everyone kind of in my life at that point had played an important part in my launch of my business. So I kept it the same, and I feel like it really is a story to tell. So I don't think I'll change it ever now, but it was a thought at one point.
Absolutely. And do you think your Aunt Bonnie would have liked the way that you rolled out your business so fast and furious?
Oh my gosh, I don't know if she would like her name being on a clothing store downtown. I don't know how she'd feel about that, but I think that what's inside is what she would love the most, and kind of like how many people play like an important role in it. I think she would really like that. And so it's kind of funny. So when we launched, I had 10 things, and I think I had like 10 family members, and that's who I named the clothing after.
Nice.
So it was like, my mom's name is Lori, so it was like the Lori top or whatever, and I tried to do that as much as possible until I ran out of names. But I think about that all the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, if she was here for that, she would have like got it. So yeah.
I love that, and it's a nice way to tie in and show respect for your whole family by having something for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So sticking with this initial whirlwind launch,
Yeah.
when you bought these 10 items, how did you have the capital to do that, being in school and just freshly figuring out what your career was going to be? Did you get an investor? How did that work?
Yeah, so I knew I never wanted to go in debt for it. I went into debt for school, and that was not just something that I wanted to do again. So I had like a couple $1,000s to my name at the time, being in COVID. So I thought, well, I'm only going to get the money back if I do it right. So it would be a small investment, but I could eventually make it into like this big investment eventually. And I hadn't really dabbled into the whole investment side of things because I hadn't had that much money because I was a student for so long. So I think it was a couple $1,000s, and I was just like, whatever, it's a couple $1,000. If I lose it, I lose it. But like, I kind of knew in my heart that like, I'm going to do it right. So it will come back one way or another. But yeah, that's why I started with so little product, was because I only had so much money to invest in like the shipping bags, in the stickers, in the tissue paper, and all that other stuff that people don't necessarily see. So I really had to stick to a budget to do what I wanted to do. But yeah.
And so with the first launch, you find out through Google and TikTok how to source your inventory.
Yeah.
But how did you know how much to carry for your first launch, and what you even needed to launch everything?
Well, I didn't. But when you buy wholesale, they usually have like packs of clothing. So I started with like 1 pack of this style, 1 pack of that style, and it comes in like certain amounts per size. And so I just kind of said, well, I can restock it if it sells out, but if it doesn't, I'll just try to like market it in different ways and sell it on sale eventually to get it moved. But yeah, they kind of made it easy on you. And even now, being in a couple years of business, I've realized that it wasn't just what they did for new people, that's just what it is. So they kind of make it easy on you, which is nice.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. So you get the inventory, you figure out everything you need to ship the inventory, you have the website. When you first launched, because this is a whirlwind, how did you get the word out? How did people know?
Yeah, so I literally Googled how to do a product launch, and it came up with like 5 things, and I had already done like half of them, but then the one thing I didn't do was like a giveaway. And I was like, oh, but everyone's doing these giveaways and they're annoying and people don't like when you get tagged in it and shared in it and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I'm just gonna try it, and it's not much money to say like, here's $100 store credit, share my video. And I got a videographer who is my partner, and he shot this video of me like telling my story. And then when I did the giveaway, it just was shared amongst everyone. And I remember going to a gathering later that weekend, and someone said, all I've seen on my Instagram is, hi, I'm Emma Scull. And it just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And I think we had like 19K views on it as our first video that we posted because so many people were sharing it. So that's kind of how I started it. And then it was just word of mouth from there, really, because it was online, and that was the only way to access it was through word of mouth or social media, really.
So initially, you're launching with this giveaway, and right off the hop, you have a whirlwind business. You receive 19,000 views on your initial product launch video.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty crazy, I guess, looking back now. But at the time, I was like, oh, I have so much to do. Like, there's so many things to, like, use this towards, basically. So, I mean, yeah, I guess looking back now, that is pretty crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you sell out almost instantly, did you say, when you had
Yeah,
your
I think
first
I
launch?
had like 2 items left, and they were like random sizes and random items, and they eventually sold. And then I just used that money that I made off of that to reinvest into more and do basically the same thing all over again. And so I think I did that like every month for like a couple of months. I would just like keep rolling the inventory and buying new inventory and doing new shoots and launches and so on and so forth.
So when it comes to the spiral and the growth of this, were you consistently investing in the business as you went from a standpoint of, I need more marketing, I need to build a stronger website, I need to have a better shipping strategy? Were you just kind of organically making this happen? Or after that initial success launch, did you sit down and go, okay, I need to make a strong business plan now, I have something here?
No, I never did a business plan. I can honestly say that I never had a plan. And I know in some careers that might be like worth it, but for me, I felt like I was in an industry where it was changing a lot due to it being COVID, and everyone was buying online, that no one really knew what to do themselves. So I was just kind of sussing it out to see what people were also feeling. But yeah, I just knew that I needed to keep rolling inventory to keep people coming back for more items, or just to grow our business at the slightest to have more than like 10 items on our website. And I think that's just what's worked for me, is just continuously rolling in new things in different ways, I guess, so that people are always coming back for something new.
Absolutely, and it sounds like they are.
Yeah.
Now don't go anywhere. After the break, we're going to talk about where Emma is now and where she'll be going. We'll see you in a few.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, I'm Judy Tate, host and producer of At the Heart of Business. Join me each week as we speak with women in business about their challenges and their successes. At the Heart of Business, right here on Rogers TV Durham.
On the next exciting episode of Cinema Scene, Joey Magnuson and me discuss award season 2023, plus May, December, and Wish interviews.
This is Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Modern Business, the show that bridges the gap between the viewer and the entrepreneur or market maker. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and we are here with Emma Scull of Bonita Clothing Co. Before the break, we were talking about how she launched her business with a whirlwind online launch and a promo video that landed her 19,000 views to kick off her business. Now we're going to discuss where she's at and where she's going. So with that, Emma, we left talking about the online evolution of the store, but now you have your own storefront in Lindsay. So talk to us a little bit about how that all came about.
Yeah, so I knew, well, after I launched online, I spent the summer like building my business online and kind of just feeling out what worked and what didn't. And then the following summer, I wanted to do pop-ups and get people out to like actually feel the product, because that was something that my customers have been saying, that they want to like see what it's like, what we have available before they actually buy it, kind of thing. So I had a few stores that I popped up in, and every time I popped up, I was like, I need to have a storefront, and people would literally tell me that all the time. But I was in my career and I didn't know, I felt like I was being like torn both ways. But then last year, around this time actually, a friend had reached out and kind of said that she also wanted to find a store. And so she kind of like looked with me, and we found the storefront, which is where we're at right now. And basically we just signed the lease, and I didn't even think anything else. I mean, my mom and everyone in my life was kind of like, well, what if this and what if that? And it was the same thing when I launched. I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. So don't tell me anything negative.
Love it.
I don't care. But yeah, so that's basically how I found the storefront, is where we are at now. And we've been there for almost a year now. We're coming up on our 1-year launch as of November 18th. And yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty crazy year.
So do you share the space with another business, or who is the we?
Yeah, so I share the space with a baby shop. We're 2 separate stores. We have 2 separate entities, and when people come in, they basically come to my side and pick out what they want from my shop, and we cash them out as like their own individual shopping experience. But the same goes for her. She's able to do her baby stuff on her own side with her own checkout and everything. It just kind of, it was definitely a new experience, I think, for a lot of shoppers to go into a shop and see like 2 separate checkouts for 2 separate stores in one storefront. But once they got used to it, it's just kind of worked. But yeah, actually in January, we are taking over the full storefront. So I'm able to say that now, and it's crazy what a year can do in terms of growth and building that inventory.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you think it actually helped you in the beginning to share that space with another business?
Yeah, like sharing the overhead was definitely a really attractive like buy-in for me, especially because I knew that I still wanted to have my full-time job, and just cutting the cost basically in half was really attractive to say like, okay, we'll try this and see if it works, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It was only half of the overhead. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, one thing popped into my mind as you were talking about the pop-ups and people being able to feel the clothing.
Yes.
The one thing that never occurred to me is when you launched online, how did you tackle returns?
Actually, we had very few returns.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just with people being nice and they didn't want to like inquire, but we did have a policy available that if they were to buy something and they didn't like it, we pay for the shipping label back. It just has to be in the same condition and unworn and have the tags on it and all that jazz. But I think there was one person from our first year in business that returned her item because it just didn't fit properly. But yeah, and again, I don't know if that's just people being nice and trying to be supportive of me. I don't know, but they haven't told me otherwise.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And now you have a storefront. You're getting ready to move and take over the entire storefront. So, you know, were you prepared for things like building a fitting room and having a POS system and all the nitty-gritty details that go into actually having a storefront location?
Yeah, I think my growth of my business is really unique in the sense that I was able to do that all slowly. So having my online shop, it was just automated. People went to www. and like went into my website and then they checked out themselves, and then I did all the behind the scenes things. But when I was at pop-ups, I needed a POS system to cash in payments. So that was kind of like my next step. And then from there, it was like adding the barcode scanner and getting things more official and like a receipt printer instead of just like printing off of my own printer at home, so that it was easier on our staff. But I think doing that gradually really helped me. And then in terms of like a renovation, I'm very lucky to live in a family of like tradesmen.
Oh,
so
perfect.
they got put to work whether they liked it or not. And yeah, I had to get my hands dirty too, and that's just the way of the road. But it was fun, and I tried to document it all as the best I could during that time, so I have those memories to share and also just to look back on to see your growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as much as this is 100% your business, it seems that you have sprinkles of your family and those key people within your journey.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you're documenting it to have that, because that could be a part of your business storyline.
Oh yeah,
in the
totally.
future.
Yeah, and so it's funny, my mom works for me and my cousin works for me, and then now my best friend's mom works for me, so it's very much so a family affair. And having those people in our store who actually care about the story just as much as I do, it shows, and I think that's attributes to how successful we actually are to this day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And was it tough for you to hire people to work in your business?
No, I kind of, and I guess in a way, yeah, but no, because I had my full-time job. I had to release control very early on and kind of delegate tasks as needed. But knowing that I had those like closer connections of people in my life to complete those tasks, it made it a lot easier to put that trust on them, I guess. Yeah.
And you don't feel awkward as a boss to those individuals now?
No, and I feel like I have kind of an open communication with them all. Like if they don't like their job, I want them to tell me, and if I'm doing something wrong, I want them to tell me, and they've told me the same. Like if they're doing something wrong and it needs to be changed, they know that I'll tell them, or I'll just like move it, and there's no hard feelings. But yeah, I could totally see how that wouldn't work, but I feel like it works better for us because we are close-knit, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And do you just have those 3 individuals working for you, or how many staff do you have on board?
I had a student in the summer, but now, yeah, we only have 3, and then myself, so I don't know if I count myself as a staff, but I do feel like I'm one, to say the least.
You're definitely in the action, that's for sure. And earlier you mentioned how when you had the storefront, you had to figure out a barcode scanner and putting barcodes on clothing. How did you figure all that out?
Lots of swear words and late nights. It can be so frustrating sometimes dealing with the whole technology end of things, but I would just like YouTube or read the instructions 1,000 times and figure it out. That's basically how I'd done this whole entire thing, is just figure it out. And so I don't think that would be any different for anything that's to come, really.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And earlier you mentioned how you started with 10 items based on inspiration that you had on TikTok. Now you have the storefront where you have a store full of clothes, but you also have the stationery and the accessories. How are you sourcing this inventory and knowing what you want to bring into the store? Are you watching trends? What are you following to figure that out?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I definitely follow a lot of European influencers. They're always ahead of the trends. And then a lot of time with our brands, they have like these lookbooks that kind of show like what's in trend this season, and then they have their line sheets based on that. So that certainly helps, but I definitely do have my own style, and our store is known for certain items in our shop, I guess. So having those repeat items are a necessity, I guess, for our business. But yeah, I've learned kind of the hard way too that not everything I love is what someone else is gonna love. So I'm sure to ask a lot, like our staff for one, do you like this? Should I get this for the shop, kind of thing? Because I don't want to just serve my own age group. I want to serve like a wider variety now that we have the storefront. And so having my mom and then one of my best friend's moms as well in there kind of creates like this like huge gap that we're filling now, because there's things that they would wear and things that my 15-year-old cousin would wear. So it just kind of, yeah.
So what's the target demographic for your store?
That's a loaded question. Yeah, like I always thought, I'm 25, so I always thought that my age group was my target audience. But then as we had the storefront, there would be like 70-year-olds that would come in and buy stuff, and it really kind of opened my eyes up that like that isn't just our target audience, that like older people can wear
absolutely trendy clothes too.
Yeah. So yeah, and there's some of our older clientele that are I would say like some of our number one customers. So having them there and like buying our stuff and saying what they like and what they don't like just kind of, I guess, makes this gap come a lot closer together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, since you have such a wide demographic for your business at this point in time, how are you marketing to those groups?
Yeah, I just try to get everyone in on the action. I've always like prioritized our marketing, and I used to take our photos with like my iPhone and set up like a tripod, and it would be me modeling the clothes. But we have like all of our own models to showcase like what the items actually look like on a real body. And I do just that with all ages. So yeah, I just did a reel the other day with my mom, and I was like, fashion doesn't have like an age category kind of thing. And so many people were liking and commenting and saying like this, I relate to this so much because there's things I want to wear that I feel like I can't, but you just got to modify it kind of thing for your age category, I guess. But yeah, I guess just like showing different ways to wear things. And I actually thought of this idea the other night. I was like, I want to do this video of like myself or my cousin who are on the younger side of things, and then my older staff wearing the same things, but like showing us together, like this is what it looks like on someone younger and this is what it looks like on someone older. I feel like just like continuously adapting to the trends like that too, to show.
Sure.
Yeah.
And since this idea kind of came from TikTok and social media, would you say that social media is your primary marketing source at this point in time?
Yeah, a lot of our referrals and like followers come from Instagram, and I have been very, I think, good at like showing my life as a store owner and making it more relatable for our customers. So I'll go on and I'll give a shop tour, and I'll hold out something that isn't on the website yet, and people will be like, oh, I want that, I'm coming into the shop for that kind of thing. So just, yeah, adapting and showing our life in the flesh basically has really helped my business be what it is today.
And would you say it's more video than photos, or?
No, it's definitely both. I have a photographer hired now and a videographer that work on our team to like market our items the best way we possibly can. So I use both in multimodal ways, I guess, and it just kind of works. And I know people look forward to seeing when we launch a new product in whatever kind of photo shoot background we're doing, because lately we've been doing around the Kawartha Lakes and showcasing what our town is for what it is. When I went to school, I always said I'll never come back here. I don't want to be back here. And now I feel like I'm doing the opposite, is like romanticizing what our town and what this area is for young people to actually come back, and there's things for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a trade tip for our audience today?
Well, I kind of was thinking about two. So my one would be just do what you want to do. Just try it and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And then two, this is something that someone told me throughout my business, and they always said, if your family and friends are buying, that's great, but you can't count them as a customer. You got to count your real authentic customers that just come in from the street or saw you on social media, and you got to value those relationships as well. And that's something that I've been really prioritizing in my business, is our customers and creating new clientele, so that it isn't just our family and friends, which I think was at the start a lot of my family and friends supporting me. So I think just expanding in those regards will really help your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Emma, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries.
This has been another edition of Modern Business. I'm your host, Taylor Bursey, and we'll talk to you next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.